Hey, Peter.
Hey.
What genre would you say this song is?
Neo Soul Bebop.
Oh, obviously Neo Soul Bebop. How about this?
Big band.
Big band music. Got it. Got it. What about this song?
Sounds like mid-century pop.
Does it? I would say it's all the genre of Stevie.
Ooh, I like it.
No chocolate covered candy hearts to give away.
I'm Adam Manis.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Music advice coming at you. New theme song.
It might be a new theme song. I love this song. I know you don't. This is not your favorite.
Is this your favorite Stevie tune?
It's not my favorite Stevie tune, but I do love this
it?
song. You know what it was? It's emotional for me. I remember being a little toddler driving around in my mom's VW Rabbit on rainy nights, and this song was on the radio, on the pop radio stations, and my mom singing along. I will always love this song. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't hate this song, but I love everything Stevie Wonder, as you know, as our dear listeners
Of
know.
course.
But this is probably my least favorite Stevie Wonder song.
Of all the Stevie songs, that's your least favorite.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, so today we're obviously talking about Stevie Wonder, and I don't know if we talk about him too much or not enough, Peter. It feels like not enough, honestly.
I don't think you ever can talk about him enough. And actually, we don't talk about him that much on the pod.
We really
There's
don't.
an assumption, which is actually a beautiful thing. There's an assumption that we make, and I think everybody makes, that there's sort of an appreciation and understanding, and that he's kind of the, undisputed heavyweight champ of like songwriting and pop and
musicianship.
But that's when it gets a little murky.
Singing.
It's like, but of what genre? It's like of everything.
That's my favorite question. We've been talking a lot about genre the last couple of weeks, which is a conversation I love to talk about.
Yeah.
And
do you?
I could talk for hours.
Oh, can you?
Just about the details of genres. I love it. I love drilling down on it so much. No, but the question I always like to ask people when we have these discussions is, sometimes I'll ask, what genre are the Beatles? So a lot of people are like, oh, rock. Are they?
Swing era.
Are like bumpin' in the ba-ba-dum, fa-ba-da-ba, you know, ba-ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. Is that rock music? Like, I mean, obviously, like doom doom goom goom, like can be rock music, or whatever. But all of my favorite artists, or a lot of my favorite artists, do not box themselves in while they're creating music, which is, I think, something that we can talk about as useful as genre and labels can be, as we're trying to show other people what music is and find good music.
Right.
When we're artists and we're actually trying to make music, my biggest inspirations, and I know, Peter, yours are too, are people like Stevie Wonder, Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock, people that just won't be boxed in to a specific sound. And I think
Don't box me in, bro.
If you ask someone what genre is Stevie Wonder, you might get 10 different answers. You can certainly get soul, you can get R&B, you can get funk, you can get gospel, you can get jazz.
Right.
You can even get some, tracks that sound almost classical. You can get pop, certainly, with like I Just Called to Say I Love You and some of the other pop hits.
In a way is the most logical, but it's also the least useful, because that just
too
means
big of an
whatever's
umbrella.
popular at that time.
Yeah.
And because Stevie's career has spanned so many different decades, and he's had hits since he was, 11 years old.
Totally,
or that you could say he's always been pop or pop adjacent.
He's been popular.
But
when you're talking about like trying to define a sound, like today when I asked you what genre is Stevie Wonder, your first answer was pop.
Right.
And I was like, oh, like Mariah Carey or Christina Aguilera pop. And like, obviously,
I said yes, but better.
But obviously not. Like it doesn't sound the same as those.
Well, that's
other
what I'm saying.
artists.
Maybe pop is the least useful out of
It's just
everything.
a big umbrella, I think, for whatever's popular at the moment. But it's just these kinds of artists like Stevie and the Beatles and like we mentioned, Herbie and Miles Davis, while you would certainly classify them, in a record store or on Spotify as in the jazz category, Miles and Herbie, their music has evolved over time, and not always with the trends in jazz.
Yeah.
And they're always playing different stuff. It's really just their own genre.
Yeah.
And I thought we could talk about the usefulness of that for musicians, or just kind of talk about genre as a box.
Yeah.
And sort of the hindrance it can have on our own personal development. This just caveat, because we've got a lot of blowback from the Loewe episode about me being frustrated talking about genre. Genre is certainly useful, and labels can be useful for helping to teach and define and show people. And also scope is important. We talked about my Aunt Linda before. Like, if I'm talking to my Aunt Linda, Kenny G is jazz.
Shout out Aunt Linda, by the way.
Kenny G is jazz, not even smooth jazz, because she doesn't really know the difference between the two.
Yeah.
So when we're having a discussion, if I'm talking about Kenny G to you, he might not even get the smooth jazz label. It might be like contemporary instrumental pop or something, right? Yeah. Because we were able to define things in a little bit sharper terms. So scope certainly can be.
But I do
part
think
of the
too,
discussion.
Aunt Linda, and kind of the general.
Wait,
popular,
you say aunt and I say aunt?
Aunt, I don't know. It could be either one. Well, Linda is your aunt or aunt. So which is it?
I always say aunt.
Aunt Linda.
Yeah,
that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
No, but I think like if you talk about Kenny G and Kenny Garrett.
Yeah.
Like if you group them together, that could be jarring to anybody. If you're like, yeah, let's go hear one of the Kennys. Last name ends in G. It doesn't make a difference. They're both jazz.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty different. Like just in terms of like the overall sound. And we're not saying one is better than the other. One is better than the other. But I mean, it just even that kind of gradation between artists within the supposedly same genre, I think is kind of important at times, to define that.
But it's all put on the fact after the music is already made. And it's really put on by people in marketing departments and things like that as an attempt to sell records, right? So that it's easily put into a box and categorized. And then also listeners know, oh, if this is in the jazz section, I like this. I like, Ahmad Jamal. So, and Kenny Garrett is right there. So it's same section. Maybe it sounds something similar. I think from that perspective, from the outside perspective. From the inside perspective, I think the culture, the shared values, community have more of an impact than that.
Well, you know what? You just said something that he's just gay. I'm calling it audible here. I'm just thinking on my feet, as
Please
they say. And I'm a little under the weather, full disclosure. My legal department called again. They just texted, said I got to say that. So this may not be totally valid, but like if you like this, then you'll like that. That I think is valuable, but maybe not in that sense of like you're in the jazz section, so you're gonna like everything that's in here. But think about this: Stevie Wonder. Maybe we don't know what genre is because he's incorporating all these things and maybe became his own genre.
He is his own genre.
But what is interesting is like if you like Stevie Wonder, you might like Raul Midon, who you've never heard of.
Exactly.
Is Raul Midon jazz? Maybe a little more place in there. Is he R&B? But similar kind of thing. He's not imitating Stevie, but he's influenced like almost every singer, songwriter, even jazz. I mean, everybody from our generation that's, I think, kind of a thoughtful musician, consciously or unconsciously is influenced by Stevie Wonder and his music and his writing. And so, but I do think that kind of thing is interesting. Like, if you like Kenny G, then you'll like Kenny Garrett. Maybe not
so much. That's what I'm saying. Like, sometimes the labels that we put on the thing is not an accurate description of what might be the commonalities. So like you said, if you like Stevie Wonder, you might like this. You might like Michael Jackson. You also might like Joni Mitchell. Like there's kind of two sides of Stevie that you can go to, right? You might also like Miles Davis if you like Stevie Wonder, because there are genres, there are eras where they were, overlapping in a similar aesthetic sound, right?
Yeah.
And so like it's just it's a murky mess when you try to get into like finding the things you like. But if you go by sort of the shared values of the artist and of your own, like what do I like about it? Right? What do I love about Stevie Wonder? I love the harmonic complexity. I love the incredible grooves. I love the production. I love the synth stuff. I love the songwriting most of all. I love the singing. Like all of it comes together and can be, I think, broken down better than it's R&B, which some of it is, some of it's not. It's soul, some of it is, some of it's not. I mean, this whole catalog is so huge. Some of it's, I think, you could classify as jazz, especially of that era. Some of it is folk music of that era. Like there's all this huge swath of influence that happens in a extremely progressive artist like Stevie Wonder.
So that I think that's a great way to put it. Progressive artists like Stevie Wonder, of course, which are sort of generational talents in a way, like they don't come along that often, but there are other ones. Like, do they become a genre unto themselves because they are so popular, or because they cross over, like because you can hear the influences of so many genres, but you can't necessarily say like it's mostly R&B, but a little bit of jazz and classical sprinkled in?
So I don't think so. Like, so let's take someone like Phil Collins. Mm-hmm. As popular as Stevie Wonder, maybe, or almost, certainly in that 80s period. Right? But he's a pop singer. Like he made pop hits. He made Invisible Touch
bangers,
and all the bangers with Genesis. All that stuff.
Pop or rock though?
But I mean, he's definitely has his like,
or prog rock.
Prog rock influences from early Genesis. He was the prog rock drummer of the early Genesis band that had Peter Gabriel as the singer as Genesis. Yeah. And he was just the drummer.
Okay.
And then when they moved over into the pop sphere with all the DX7 stuff, he's definitely the singer. But that's not like they're definitely like crossing over genres between those two eras. But in general, Phil Collins as an artist, we're going to call him more of a pop singer. I'm talking about like if you were to say what genre is Phil Collins, well, those are pop ballads he's singing. That's pop music he's making.
Yeah.
But if you were to say what genre is Jacob Collier, Peter, what genre is Jacob Collier?
Nouveau harmonic progressive.
You have to make up some words.
UK soul
combination
jazz.
of words, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is like it can be you can play within a genre and be a sort of devotional musician to that genre.
Yeah.
And say like I really want to sound like rockabilly or whatever and like really like lean into the look and the feel and the sound of that music. Or you can be the kind, there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's a lot of great music and
not that there's anything wrong with that.
no, but there's not. But or I think you can be more of like a introspective, reflective, almost meditative artist. Like I would consider like Stevie. Jacob Collier is like a one of one. We'll put Miles in there as well. I think the Beatles are so unique in there. Obviously started off as like with like rock and roll and that sort of like,
a lot of blues.
Britpop, a lot of blues in their influence. But like if you listen
But they're not a blues band.
No, you listen to Abbey Road, like it's all over the map what they're trying to do. There's definitely classical influence. There's like English choral music influence
and like what's that? The concert band stuff,
Concert band stuff, English brass band sounds, you know what I mean? Like it's an interesting mix of stuff.
So what do you think
sea shanties?
Seashells on the sea shanties suffering silently.
But I love artists that are just open to letting themselves go to these places that are outside of an expectation. I think that's when some of the greatest music ever made is made.
Yeah. So what do you think then about subgenres? Maybe that's where the magic is. Maybe that's where them gold and their hills are. So like maybe that's a more useful thing. So if you think about like, do you like classical music? Well, are you talking about,
I mean, literally classical music is a very short period.
Right. But okay. But within that, but that's sort of a subgenre. So if you look at like Baroque is a subgenre of classical.
Yeah.
You might really like Baroque music. I mean, Kelly Martin, the wonderful, beautiful Kelly Martin asked me the other day because we went to see the symphony. She's like, it was Beethoven piano concerto. She's like, is this classical or romantic period? And I was like, well, it's classical, but Beethoven's kind of
classical.
Yeah, Big Ten classical, but it's also sort of the end of the classical and the beginning of the romantic period. I believe Beethoven is, or is he just classical?
No, I think you're correct on that.
But they even had those not arbitrary, but it's also just like it wasn't like January 1st of 18 whatever.
Yeah,
they switched over.
But this is where I'm saying where it can be useful is thinking about it in scope, right? Because you do have say like big tent pop.
Yeah,
and I think you could put Stevie Wonder in big tent pop because he's one of the best-selling artist of all time, one of the most popular artists of all time. And then you can get down into subgenres. Well, you have songs that sound, especially from the Motown era, like soul music for sure. It is soul music.
Yeah.
R&B songs. He's got funk songs like Superstition, many, many others. And he's got pop ballads from the 80s, like I Just Called to Say I Love You.
Yeah.
He's got reggae tunes. Like he really has like...
Boogie on Reggae Woman.
Yeah, he's got all of these amazing influences and all these spices in his music. And it's the same thing. Like you can say Miles Davis is big tent jazz, right? No question about it. Shared value system, lineage comes from Charlie Parker and before.
But gets into smooth jazz.
But gets into, by the end of his career, what we would now, if you heard it, was like, oh, that's smooth jazz.
Yeah.
100%.
So, but maybe Stevie Wonder is a subgenre, actually. Like maybe
music.
As opposed to like, I mean, it's got all these different influences, but maybe as much as like, acid jazz was for a while, or prog rock, which I don't even really know. I mean, I know that's the thing. I didn't know Genesis was prog rock, but like that's a better definition or could give more clarity. Because look, what we're talking about is not for musical creativity. It's not like I want to write a prog rock record. I want to do it. No, and I think that was something that was misunderstood by what both of us said, but you got singled out for is like, well, you're saying genre doesn't matter. I think what you were saying was it doesn't matter for the creative process.
No.
How are you going to become a Stevie Wonder? Not that anyone is, but let's aspire to greatness.
Yeah,
right?
and in fact, like I was talking a little bit in some of the comments I answered about teaching, and I do a lot of teaching around here. And I have no problems with people putting themselves into boxes. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
So like, I don't have to teach that.
Yeah.
I don't have to teach you how to be attracted to conventions. Everybody wants to learn conventions. They think that's the key.
Yeah.
But I almost get no student that is too much themselves, where it's like, whoa, hold on, pull back a little bit. You're too original.
Right.
You're too much yourself. It's usually people get stuck thinking, I should sound like this. I need to sound like this. I have to learn how to do things like this, as opposed to freeing themselves and just being themselves and letting their own creativity take them places that are a little bit unexpected. I have no problems with students that are too much themselves. I have more problems with people that are stuck in conventions that they don't know how to get out of.
Right. Yeah, if I have any faults, it's that I'm too original of an artist. I'm too true to myself.
No, I mean, like, you know who, like people like Jahari Stampley that we just listened to yesterday, like that is someone who is themselves. You know, they're showing up to the Hancock competition dressed as themselves, playing themselves.
Now, will he look back at his 23-year-old self when he's 30, when he's 40, 45 and be like, oh, I didn't have my thing together yet?
Of course.
He probably will.
At some point.
But we can already hear that, you know, what hopefully will continue to be him as he develops, you know.
That's the strong suit. It's not how fast he can play or whether he knows every single Monk tune.
Yeah. Or whether or not we can identify some of his clear influences, which are there.
For sure.
You know. Just as you could with Stevie at that age and certainly younger.
No, and he is connected to the history, to the lineage of the music.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think Stevie is as well. You can hear Duke Ellington in Stevie. Like you can hear these influences of Black American music all the way through Stevie. And now he's a part of that influence, of course.
Yep.
And like that's, I think, what we were more talking about in genre. Not that you can't ever use labels and they're not useful for certain things. Of course they are. When we're discussing these things, they're labels. But when you're making music, try every once in a while just doing something out of your quote unquote genre or your expectations.
Yeah.
And see where that takes you.
What's the subgenre this is?
Hello. So that's big tent jazz.
Big tent jazz, like
for
circus
sure.
jazz.
Circus jazz. No, big tent, that's under the jazz heading for sure. We're going to call that, what do we call that?
Is that progressive
Peter?
Jazz?
By the way, so just so everybody knows, can we go to camera 4? Camera 4, please. Thank you. We don't have any numbers on the camera. This is Peter Martin's new CD, Peter Martin and Generation S, with Sarah Hanahan on alto saxophone, Ruben Rogers on the bass, Gregory Hutchinson on the
Shameless
drums.
plug.
It's so good, man. You should be so proud.
I'm very proud of this.
We had concerts all week last week, and it was so much fun to hear.
These just floated into the studios, these original samples, but you can pick up your copy if you'd like at petermartinmusic.com. Just throwing that out there. Dynamic modern jazz. Dynamic.
He's
we do play with
down,
dynamics.
Caleb. Wow.
Dynamic. No, but I do think that these type of subgenres can, because I mean, I used to always, it would irk me. I would chafe, and perhaps even bristle a little bit.
Bristle. We coined a new subgenre.
Dynamic modern jazz. When people were like, "Oh, what kind of music do you play? Oh, you got a band? What kind of music you play?" So I play jazz. Oh, well, like what kind? I'd be like, "Look, you idiot! It's just badass jazz. That's all you need to know."
Well, there's also nothing more pretentious than a musician where you're like, "What kind of music do you play?" You're like, "Well, it actually can't be categorized." That is also annoying.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, didn't you say that in the episode though?
What episode?
You said genres. You can't be genre sized. I'm joking. You got so serious. Look at his face. Genres don't matter. I can't be. Don't box me in, bro. Don't tase me, bro. You got to get back and Google that one. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like we get pretentious to avoid it. It can be pretentious to embrace it too much. You know, we just need to find a middle. Like, how do you say something to get people to the music to hear it as quickly as possible?
There's nothing.
That's what's important.
There's nothing new under the sun. Charlie Parker said it best: learn the changes and forget them. Right. And to me, that could be even like blown out to different scope.
Yeah.
Learn the conventions. Learn the genres of what it means to be a bebop musician. What the difference between bebop and smooth jazz is. You should be able to hear that. You should know who the heavy hitters are in every genre of music that you love for sure. And then when you go to make music, forget all of it and just be yourself and see what comes out.
So some of the official some of the official gatekeepers, I think, have done a little bit of disservice, perhaps. And I feel a little bit bad, but I got to be honest about my feelings on this. They've done some wonderful things too. So this is just a minor point, but I'm just thinking like Sirius XM. And look, with Spotify, Apple Music, with YouTube and Instagram, TikTok, the different discovery methods we have, maybe Sirius XM is not as big of a player, but there was an in-between time when, like, say, for instance, specifically to jazz, that jazz radio which were oftentimes NPR affiliated stations or public stations, always around like the 89, 90, 91 area on the FM. Fell out
my
of favor.
dial is stuck all the way to the left,
Yeah,
buddy.
and I still listen to like when I'm traveling and stuff, I just find there I'm like classical jazz. Okay,
That's where all the good shit is.
That's where all the good shit is. So I mean, you got jazz, you got classical, and the liberal echo chamber, all wrapped up in one little number.
it's usually because you're usually going to then find like the R&B station at 107,
exactly.
108. So
you just
like,
gotta avoid the middle.
End,
It's like when you go to the grocery. If you want to eat healthy, avoid the inside of the grocery
That's
store.
right.
Stay
Just like on the radio dial. No one under 40 knows what the hell we're talking about right now.
Exactly. But Sirius XM, they have a wonderful jazz station, but it's called Real Jazz. First of all, it's called Sirius. So
Gatekeep much?
Right, Sirius is not even the same word, but it sounds like Sirius. So if you say Sirius Real Jazz, that's going to make people be like, oh, that sounds like a party happening over there,
100%.
And then the smooth
Lincoln
jazz
Center
station.
approved. Juilliard approved.
Exactly.
Real Jazz.
Oh, there's actually they broadcast from the same floor in the same building.
There you go. Till next time.
You'll hear it.
Woo.